How's everyone? I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and sends my way. From the heart, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype to this video to help push the message. As well, do please know that the message is now out on book and via Kindle for those that like to read. Gracias. Well, everyone, getting into what I want to talk about today. Today, more so is story time, right? I wanted to share this with you guys as I was going along, telling my story, especially when we got here to Mexico. But as you guys know and can tell, you know, God's the only one that knows my time, right? So I try to press on the most outstanding things and kind of put aside stories, right? So I hope it still makes some type of sense. But for this, I'm going to take you back 2018. I just got it out. It's maybe been a month at the most, right? And in this month, as you guys are aware, I was real wet behind the ears when it came to wiggles and stuff in Mexico, right? How things used to get done in Mexico. For one, I didn't agree with a lot of things. Now, that never mattered. I was never nobody, never meant to be nobody. So my opinion was just hot air. I was to do, and that was it. But anyways, you guys know I got tested right away in Ensenada with evil. Had already been busted in Tijuas due to bullet, and then it became time to stop in on the old man from Ontario, right? Old man D. Now from the gate, it was different. Just stopping in on D because first off, I went back with D to Corcoran Shoe, right? There had been many, many conflicts, right? That I had sidelined with daryl, just straight up, at the moment, as in every moment, when you sideline with a Billy, you don't know what the outcome's gonna be. You basically just throw a dice up in the air, and wherever it lands is just boogie time. Vámonos, and don't question it, cause it's mostly when it hits the fence in a negative way, right? Also, I know he had a position, and at the moment he was answering up to Elini, and Elini, to some extent, he had him in that position due to a family member, which I had already been warned by Sana and Evil that was none of my business. Whatever Apili had going on with with the faction that's between the Pili and the faction to stay grounded and stay pushing for whatever I was meant to do, right? Which again was to open respect and open avenues. But smart individual always, of course, you're gonna go through 1,000 different scenarios, right? Again, I had never done nothing wrong in my whole career, and the times you could say I could have gone against D, I didn't. I sidelined with them, and if things would have came out bad, I would have rode with them. But regardless, I understood it was meant to go. It's a whole different animal. I had already been tested by a Pili, be a Judas, be a getting stomped in the bar. I did what I was supposed to, and a Pili got disrespected, and I acted, which led to me getting stomped in and bailed out, right? And anyways, once I got into Sonora, we were there. Well, we were there a couple days. We were only supposed to be there 9 days. Yeah, 9 days, a full week and a couple days, right? We were waiting for some important family members to hit Culiacan so that we would hit Culiacan around the same time. So at the time we're there, we're playing catch up with the camaradas, with the senores, excuse me. Daryl's there, uh, Mono's there, Richie, oh, you know, there was Lechuza. I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't have not heard of Lechuza. He was a carnal that got made, and unfortunately, the Contras, in this case, Los Sarazares, would end up taking him out. But I do want to get into the whole profile on the Salazares, how it started, how it went sideways, and it went from them being real loyal to, in reality, putting a big debt in Sinaloa, right? When it came in Sonora, Chihuahua, them areas. But that's a different story. On around the fourth day, we're there. All that hee ha ha ha. We're remembering Corcoran. It wasn't even like that. There was issues to be met. We were ready to meet them. There was no laughing in between. But Daryl was making too much of it. If you guys get it, like you know, like we played baseball our whole lives together, and we were just buddies, right? And I'm not gonna minimize that, but at the same time, I was just always a soldado. I was always underneath them, right? So by him pretending things to be one way, of course, it made things spin in my head. I'm a thinker, so I start thinking of something's coming. Even this time in the hospital, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything, but everybody that was with me would tell me, Chino, what are you doing? I'm telling I'm following. What I meant by following is something happened in emergencies and I will follow it and put it together. I'm real good when it comes to words. I don't let them by. And if they're said for a reason. You look for the angle of the reason, right? And pretty much always tells you how the play is gonna go. But getting back to this, remember one night I shared with you guys. There's a homie that needed to get disciplined, and D sent us to grab him, right? To bring him. Keep in mind, I'm wet behind the ears. I'm learning a whole bunch of things. For one, the disciplines in Mexico, not only when it came to us disciplining our own, but when it came to us turning in our own to affection and what they were going to do with them. But also, you know, how we were just supposed to sit down. I just came out of a world where our gente could not be touched with a feather because there's going to be many homies that are going to die in the line because of it. And I had to cope with that. That was out the window. And the Pilis will straight tell you this is Mexico. Get that out your head. Different rules, regulations. We're a whole new faction. So it was something I was learning as the fact of us going to pick up a camarada. It don't matter what he had done. We would still pick him up and turn him into them individuals. Yes, we were working with Sinaloa. Yes, we were everything, but this was a homie. How you gonna give him up to a different race? It's like us in the system over there in Cali. We have a homie that messes up, and we go get him, hog tie him, and we go turn him into the Bloods, to the Cribs, to the Woods, and have them do their piece with him and us not do anything in regard. Anyways, there was a whole bunch of learning, right? And like I said before, this homie he had messed up. They ordered us to pick them up, and I turned him into Daryl, straight up. I felt if he had a discipline coming, let's boogie, let's give it to him. If we had to dome him, let's boogie, let's dome him, right? Us, it was nothing like that. It was just gracias, Chino. Daryl turned around and gave him to at the moment. It was Gavilan. Remember the guy I caught up there at the ranch that I knew right away who he was with. And like I said, we were literally sitting down. There was a little hut right next to us. The homie was alive, and it was a dead that wasn't even sure it was him. Have you guys ever heard and acts going to somebody while he's alive, how it goes from oof, hollow to just dry. Now I want you to please keep in mind I'm wet. I don't know none of this. You know, I have a month that I just got it now, and I've gone through Nogales, Ensenada, Rosarito, Tijuana. I was moving around till I was supposed to get to my destination, right? Which is where I'm at in Culiacan. But anyways, right away you have to shake that off. In Mexico, you don't know who you could trust, period. You could know a righteous camarada for many, many years. But since in Mexico everybody's out to win their bones by snitching, by putting somebody down, your best bet is just callado. Hey, what do you feel about this? Todo bien. A darle para adelante. But anyways, in between this, Daryl got offered some jale. It wasn't even chicharrón, it was just goma. It was goma to be made to chicharrón with the correct acids, right? And what they wanted was three of us to go into the Ceferezo, the old Ceferezo right there in Hermosillo, and clip someone. The moment we clipped them, we were going to be let back out. Now, please sit with me. I'm used to the system in the States. You don't play with the system by going in and doing your will and getting out. You go in, you do your mission, you're stuck. I had not done enough time in Mexico to believe it. Nevertheless, I always been a jailbird, and I wasn't going to ban by going to have to sit down and do time, right? For something that needs to get done, that's going to benefit a Pili, that will benefit Ontario more so, right? But the mission was we're going to get picked up by a captain. He was going to take us into the penal. We're going to look for Negro, they called him. He was part of the responsibilities in Sonora when it came to Sinaloa, right? Alongside daryl and others. We're supposed to take his wing. And that same night, they were supposed to open the back door and we were going to leave. I didn't believe it. I felt we were being okie doke. We're going to go in, we're going to pull this fool's wig, and we're going to be stuck. Again, I was wet behind the ears. So me and Pelo Loco, he was a homie from San Fernando, crazy hair, whatever you want to call him. I used to call him exactly that, Pelo Loco destrampado, right? It's a good homie. I had asked him, ¿qué piensas? And he said, I have not done it. Are you going to write it out? No weakness, right? I told him, Simon, Let's go in, take care of business, at least good. If we get stuck, then we dealt with the situation, right? We would end up going in. I mentioned it to you before. You don't go through R&R. You don't go through strip searches. You go straight to GP if you sign that waiver from the gate, right? That you could walk GP. Keep in mind, I don't have a photo. I don't know what the individual looks like. I know he has people with him, but again, Greña, myself, and Zorrillo, we ended up going in. We were the three newest individuals. Myself being literally the fish, right? We would go in, and with the one thing I have is I take laps. I don't need to talk to nobody. My thing is always I put my golfers on and I just take laps around the prisons. And just by I take a lap, I hear a name. I take another lap, I associate the name with somebody, and that's how I always learned in Mexico, right? Who was who, what was what, because you can't trust nobody. Well, anyways, this individual had a position inside. There was nobody we could call to call it in to see if we stand down, we push through. So it's all we knew is we needed to get it done, period. So once I discovered him, he had his own little restaurant in there, right? I told Greñas and the other homie, and I'm not gonna get graphic, but the homie Greñas and the other homie, they grabbed onto him in the back where they make cups of bamboo, right? And I just jump on him and start getting to work on him. You know, the rest of the Talibanis and cartels get there and they pull out their little shanks and they tell us to let go. And I tell them, go ahead, go ahead. You're only going to make us let go by you bucking up. And they were at a loss. Imagine us being at a loss and them at a loss, right? Nobody knew what was going to happen inside. This was one of them things we were doing for D in order to D pick up respect on the streets. Like I said before, D had a lot of jugo there. We would end up taking care of the mission, right? There was no question of who the target was and what was the mission. And of course, the secondary came. Dirección came, which is the Judas and stuff. They put us down in a dungeon and we start getting work done. They wanted to know who we were with and nobody. We just came from the streets. They asked me where I knew the individual. I told them me and him have some personal issues with family in the States. It has nothing to do with your prison, which it wasn't believable. We got stomped in. And 2 days after getting beat in, all of a sudden they come. They threw some clothes, put the clothes on. Vámonos. They opened up the back door Daryl and the rest of the fellows picked us up, and it was a dead issue. It never happened. Well, I shouldn't say that. There was a paisa they called the goose. They blamed them for the murder. They snatched them up, they did whatever with them, but our files got ripped up like nothing. And that was the beginning of learning how Mexico works and how trash it is. Remember how we say you work hand in hand with the Judas here. I will get more into detail on Daryl's doing to not leave no doubt. If I knew who he was, his placazo, and if I knew how they picked him up and took him out. But with this said, again, this was just part of my story I wanted to share with you. Sorry I'm not myself. 5 days being dead, right? Being kept alive by machines. Man, it's terrible. I wish I could have taken the coward's way out, but there's no room for that carrying God's cross. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones.